Last week, I have been speaking about the qualities of a good friend and how these same qualities also apply to our relationship with ourselves and by extension also to our relationship with the earth, which we are part of. And I brought a quote today from Robin Wall Kimmerer, who wrote the very famous book Braiding Sweetgrass, which probably quite a few of you have heard about or even read. And she says, even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair, not because I have my head in the sand, but because joy is what the earth gives me daily, and I must return the gift. So that's a beautiful quote. And even, if you might not always be actually able to access joy, we can learn or we can train ourselves to attune to what the earth is trying to tell us. And once we get started with aligning our lives more consistently, with the good qualities which inspire us, which we find beautiful and meaningful, then if we try to live those qualities in relationship with the world as it is right now, that reveals our purpose. Our gifts, our particular medicine which we have to give emerges in the way how we can benefit this transition we are currently in, from an old paradigm to a new paradigm. My purpose becomes apparent in response to the world. Just like Robin Wall Kimmerer, if you heard about her path, And surely all of us, have had similar experiences. We started with something and then, we meandered and things are coming together the more we mature in relationship to our lives, to the world. And in a way, as we mature, we can embody our purpose more and more fully. And in that way, our own healing becomes our gift to the world. By walking the question, we are becoming the answer. I really like that saying. Walking the question, how can I benefit with what I am and what I'm good at? How can I benefit? If that's the intention, the question, the answers will come. And slowly but surely we're becoming it. And then we only notice that in hindsight, actually, that we're already doing, what we are intending. But sometimes, we need to put on more kindly eyes, when we look at ourselves, because we can be very critical of ourselves. So, whenever that the inner critic comes up, thinking that beating ourselves up because we're doing something wrong, to really recognize that and have enough steadiness of awareness, mindfulness, to include it into what is known rather than exclude it and becoming it, in the sense like really becoming our worst enemy. But rather, if that gets triggered, including it and knowing, okay, now fear is present, and because of that, I think I've done something wrong, and start beating myself up. Once, we get the hang of that we are not falling for that, but can include it in our awareness, that's a really big step. It's a really big step. So to have that steadiness and equanimity, upekkha in the Pali language, one of the 7 factors of awakening, and also one of the 4 Brahmaviharas, the limitless mind states. And in terms of factor of awakening, it is an equanimity towards our own mind states And in terms of Brahmaviharas, this is equanimity in regards to others' mind states, whatever they say and do to us. So it's two different facets of that equanimity, equipoise, how it's sometimes also called, or a sense of perspective, seeing things in context. And then, when we are bringing that up, then we have the capacity to trust that life has, or life is, an intelligence, and we can let the life inside of us, so to say, and around us guide us by looking what's happening inside of us. And at the beginning, we often can't understand the language. But then by really taking an interest and, becoming more precise, we start to understand what is being said, not by thinking about it, but by sensing, directly experiencing it. And whenever we are not able, to stay with sensing and feeling, there's a tendency to overthink. You're splitting off the energy into the head and then going in circles. I'm thinking one more time, I need to think about it, and then I put it down because I know one more time and then I'll know. And it never happens like that. And to be able to stay conscious with that, repetition compulsion, we can say, and include it in awareness, that makes such a difference, to be able to be with the discomfort of that becomes more and more like a portal into a deepening of our relationship with ourselves and our inner guidance. And we're getting a lot of encouragement, from the meditation traditions to do that kind of work, but also from the indigenous peoples around the world. And sometimes, meditation traditions are from cultures, where people are living still very close to the earth. When I, trained in Thailand over 30 years ago, I lived with, in some of those forest monasteries. They were very simple lives there. But still, the meditation traditions, as they come to us out of the patriarchal traditions, they have a tendency towards transcendence, while as the indigenous peoples have an interest in sustainability, the 7 generations, and I think not taking too much because we want to come back next year and we want to again take something, but not taking everything. So it's a very different way of being in relationship, about staying here, not going somewhere else. And, as it is in the history of this species of ours, there seems to be like a pendulum between transcendence and immanence. And at this time, we are at the end of an era of extreme transcendence, thinking, wishing, and where we now understand, we need to really come back to the ground because our bodies are the earth. And as long as we are having a human body, we need the food, we need the elements, we are completely dependent, we are completely part of the earth. And for that, we can really take encouragement from the indigenous peoples around the world who tell us, that the earth is really speaking very loud now to humanity. And they can hear it, because they are used to listen. And we can learn that, using the core teachings as we have been receiving, out of patriarchy, using those teachings, of course, because they are definitely very valuable and liberating, but they need to be combined with those different ways of looking at the earth as a living being which needs our support in order to regenerate itself, or herself rather. So the earth is speaking loud to us because we are in danger. So let's, now settle in for a guided meditation. And just feeling, the body on the cushion on the chair. And allowing the breath to take you into the body. And seeing how that lands, the earth is really speaking loud to us because we are in danger. For me, when I hear that, it's a relief. Finally, somebody, really saying it plainly. I have heard that from a South American shaman and ceremonial leader who's called Akan Lushwala, and who is a indigenous partner for the Pachamama Alliance, where I have been doing some trainings with them. And recently, there was a Zoom call with him, and that's what he was saying, the earth is speaking very loud now because we are in danger. Humanity is in danger of wiping itself off, at least for some time. So you're letting that sentence, just go through your system and settle us deeper in the moment. Sensing the gravity, like the earth is hugging us, not allowing us to float off. Because this is our learning ground here. It's not a hostile ground. It is what it is. It's very complex and very mysterious and wondrous. And rather focusing on wanting to get away from the messiness, we can also look at it in terms of, wow, this is an amazing mystery here. These bodies of ours have emerged out of the earth through the mediation of our mothers, and then they get nourished with food and oxygen and water and many other sunshine, temperature, many other good things. And then the bodies age and get sick, die, and go back, add, to the soil, from which then new life emerges. This is pretty amazing. This is a display of the three characteristics: impermanence, instability or unsatisfactoriness, and not self or emptiness. That's what's happening. We don't need to escape in order to see that. We can just see that any moment, looking inside ourselves or outside of ourselves, so to say. So we can allow that life which is within us and all around us, allow that life to guide us at this time, where our foundation is in danger, where we are sitting is in danger, and without that, we also can't practice. And sensing the vastness, the massiveness of the body of the earth, and breathing up the stability, the stillness, the vastness. of this being we are a part of. And noticing, how that feels in our grounding as the human being sitting here today. At a time where we know that the earth needs our attention. So starting, to see our lives in a wider context, not just about how we can get away from here as quick as possible, but taking responsibility for that which we are a part of. And through that, maturing our faculties as well. So sensing in that vibrancy of aliveness in the body. Which always finds a way and has been doing this since over 4 billion years. Why not align ourselves with that? This life which has been passed down to us is as those bodies, as riding animals for consciousness. So consciousness can have experiences and grow and mature, to eventually full letting go of all of this. But for now, we have a body and we need to urgently be okay with that. Because, those bodies are much more than just a personal body. And, feeling the life force pulsing through us, through thousands of generations, from conception to conception, we have emerged from this planet through the support of our mothers. And since we have been born, and our umbilical cords have been cut, our bodies have been built up and nourished through invisible cords or roots that are connecting us, to the biosphere. So visualize roots coming out all over your body, above and below, on all sides, thicker ones and thinner ones, into the ground, into the atmosphere. That's how it really is. They are invisible cords, invisible roots. Receiving nourishment. And through receiving this nourishment, which comes to us from the earth, we also receive actually information. It, literally goes into our form, information. And this is, how life is able to speak to us, because we are constantly taking in elements from outside the body, and then we are releasing some elements when we go to the bathroom. And this is how we receive information if we are open enough to allow that kind of a thought, that it could be like this. that this is actually a real great opportunity, the pressure we are experiencing. It opens us up to connecting with a sort of information, historically only maybe shamans have until now had the training to do. We all have to become little shamans now. And the Buddhist word samana, I'm considered to be a samana, which is like a mendicant. That has the same root as the word shaman. So allowing life to speak to us, not through words, but through sensing into the aliveness. And knowing that this power wants to stay alive and will do everything possible to preserve itself. Because it's already been doing it for 4 billion years. Why should it now stop? Just because one species got a bit out of control, this force is much, much bigger than that. And she always finds a way. And we can sense that aliveness in our bodies and around our bodies. And I really like, some people call it, this is the ringing of the ornaments of the mother. As she walks around, looking after everything. That's what we can hear in the silence. It will do anything, she will do anything possible to preserve itself or herself. And with that, all of life. And we can trust that because it's happening since a very long time. And instead of trying to figure it out with our heads, we need to witness what's happening inside of us. What is moving us? What is life in us looking for? And that's, how our individual medicines, our individual gifts, our purpose can start to become more and more manifested if we ask those questions. To really feel, sense into it and allow ourselves to be guided by it. And trusting that guidance. Trusting the life, which is inside of ourselves. And I think whoever, offers themselves to support, to become part of the immune system, gets kind of activated in that way. And, it takes some time maybe to learn the language. Like when you go to a strange country, you can't immediately speak the language. Some people are more talented than others, but anyone who stays with it can learn it. In these times of crisis, there's always two things happening at the same time. Something is ending, dying, and at the same time, something new is being born. And that's like a messy affair, as we all know. But that's what's happening. And when a crisis like that happens, it's an opportunity to change. If we hit rock bottom, before we say we can no longer go on like this, we can no longer go on like drinking like before or whatever, And then we just say, okay, I'm going to just now clear up the mess and bite into it. So that means, okay, I'm going to open to this information and I'm going to adapt to them and embody them more fully every day, and aligning my life with that. And all of us have heard that calling, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And there's, as I said, there's many such pockets of sanity, online and offline, in the world today, which is great. And we are not alone, we are not alone individually, we are not alone as this group. There's many groups doing this, and that's great. Because, we cannot turn things back. I mean, it's impossible. Because we are part of the earth, and the changes which are happening to the earth. And regardless if we consciously join it or not, it's going to happen. But if we consciously align ourselves, it's much less confusing and painful, of course. And we can also support others. So instead of trying to get rid of that pressure, we need to just participate, offer ourselves, and okay, working with intention, working with prayer. And if there's fear, and doubt, all of those things will come up. They're not particularly helpful if we get lost in them, really. But we can include them in what is known, and they will slowly but surely, the material will be integrated, digested, or trauma, at a time of these big changes, we can easily feel lost, regress into some earlier patterning. I definitely, see that in myself. But those experiences of lostness, they still happen, but they've got much, much shorter, because I no longer blame myself that I've done anything wrong, but it's more like, okay, here you are again, and making space, taking that little child onto my lap, slowing down and going on anyway. It's just a little bit slower, maybe. Or maybe just taking a break. So, in order to land more in this, there's definitely a need to digest old material, traumatic material that comes up. But then, one bite at a time, that's how it works. Sometimes we even need maybe some professional help. But anyone, who connects with that vibrancy, that aliveness in themselves will receive this guidance. And the body is this organ of listening, which can receive the guidance. Simply, through the food we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink. This is how life informs us. And, as I said before, in the past, maybe that was the work of the shamans and the healers and so on. But we can all listen to life in this way because we need to. All of us need to get involved because there's so many different pieces. It needs to be a collective effort because there's so many pieces of instruction and everyone has a piece to add, to the huge, huge puzzle. There's one requirement is to receive these instructions through the body, not through the head. And the body is the head is part of the body, yes. But, in this dying era, the head was, worshipped as the most important, the intellect as the most important part of the body. And now we find out that maybe the whole body is actually an organ of perception. And the old paradigm has put the head above everything else. But in this kind of communication, the head cannot be the leader. The thinking mind cannot be the leader, can be supporting, must support, has a lot to offer, but it can't be the leader. Because earth talks to earth, or talks to water, talks to fire. And earth, water, fire, wind, it's in our bodies. Our bodies are made of that. The wisdom of the universe doesn't speak to the head. So maybe we can just take some time now to do exactly that, that listening with the whole body. Is there anything I need to know right now for my next step? The wisdom of the universe does not speak directly to the head. So coming out of that identification with the intellect as the boss of all of this. This is not the way it is. The intellect is more like a servant. Important servant indeed, but not in charge for this. Is there anything I need to know right now for my next step on the path? Walking the question, coming the answer through the steadiness of awareness, or refuge in Buddha, you can call that too. Knowing, but not as a way to escape, but as a way to fully participate. Because that's what's needed right now. The pendulum is coming down the other side now. Until that changes again, but for now, that's what's needed in order for life on this planet to continue in a way that humans can be here. If that's what we want. If that's what we want for future generations to enjoy. Or if we just don't care. Because we just want to get away from it. That's aversion and delusion, really. So receiving the instructions with the body, by sensing with the body, by listening with the body, and having clear intention. And joining in. In that way, the pressure diminishes. And there's more capacity for receptivity. And, from that, the embodiment is going to flourish forth. So the steadiness of staying with the process, and whenever it comes to a hiccup, to a bump in the road, don't need to make a big deal out of it. And trusting that life always will find a way, because it has done so for a very long time. Why should it stop now? I have a beautiful quote by an English teacher who passed away, some years ago. He was the resident teacher at Gaia House in the UK. Name is Rob Bayer, and he said, practice is not practice unless it affects perception. Practice is not practice unless it affects perception. There's a letting go of old assumptions and a capacity to allow more life to land in us and increasing, opening. And then you know you're on the right track because you can feel it in the body. You can sense it in the body. It's being more, landing more deeper in the moment. And it's a question of, the relationship to what's happening in our lives. Gives us more and more depths of connection, and a sense of being guided. Of being attuned. And being part of the immune system. Being informed by this much vaster intelligence. And allowing life to speak for itself rather than speaking for life. Which we really can't do through the intellect. But maybe through poetry and maybe through other kinds of art. And by embodying the regenerative intelligence of this being we call planet or universe or whatever we want to call it, the mystery. Maybe it's not even a being, maybe whatever it is. Words, it's only words, but they can help us. They're like jumping boards. We try to be as precise as we can, but then sometimes there is no word. And then you can sense, you can feel it when you're on the right track. And sometimes that means to hold steady through another bottleneck, another painful episode, lots of fear or lostness, insecurity, doubt. But just stay with that. until it changes again. And knowing, that this is how we get cooked soft. And trusting the process. So it's really about an expansion of perception, growing out of an assumption of human supremacy and starting to be opening to the fact that this is just a delusion of a real dangerous kind. We always thought, white supremacy is dangerous, which it is, but human supremacy is even more dangerous. All kinds of supremacy are just not applying here. Because it's a web, very delicate web. So staying with the process and watching, sensing, feeling, and praying for guidance. Attention is very important, to be really conscious how we are sitting down, how we are approaching all of this, because it very much determines what is being seen. And if there's fear and doubt and whatever else, including that in what is known, that's how we grow. That's how we expand. Not stopping there, giving up and becoming it. Becoming the fear, becoming the doubt. But it's more, there's any becoming the best version of ourselves. And then the next and the next. It's never going to stop until full awakening. We have another few minutes to just sensing with the body, the aliveness. So receiving the instructions with the body, earth speaking to earth. And learning the language.